Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, this is your wake-up call. Let's talk about the concept of the blackout. For too long, black people have been threatening to stop buying from businesses owned by other ethnicities, and to be honest, this is a joke. Unless we have a complete infrastructure in place for every industry, just how do you plan to do that? Name a black-owned vehicle manufacturer in the United States. I have already told you about 2 black-owned smartphone manufacturers who also have phone service in Season 1's Episode 14 of Wide Open Wednesday, and also in Season 2's Episode 6 of Wide Open Wednesday. If you have not seen them, click the links on the screen to watch. Now, let's continue. Name a black-owned computer manufacturer. I could go on, but I think you're starting to get the point. The most realistic way to black out is to do what they have been doing systematically. Have you ever heard of the Blackout Revolution website? Probably not. And look, I know it's going to take time, but start with the fact that you don't need to spend $200+ on LeBrons or Jordans. I know it'll be difficult for some of you to give up these habits, but understand that neither of those brands are black-owned. They are black advertised, and those black athletes have stakes in those brands, which are both owned by Nike. Do you see anything wrong with the shoes on this site? We've purchased a few shoes from here, and they are very well designed. The owner is a black man. Those of you who know me may have seen me wearing them. We also bought these. The sneakers have lasted me over 2 years without issue. There are a lot of things the black community spends large amounts of cash on that we really don't need to have.
If you have money, you can buy anything.
And we could seriously empower our own communities by redirecting our money.
Babe, sideways, but make sure you get the window.
The man in the middle says if you're black and American, you should keep your money in the African American community. The rapper and political activist Killer Mike is determined to penalize a system he believes is racist. Economic sanctions are his weapons of choice against injustice and police brutality.
If you learn how to play the economic game, you can use that as effectively as any other tool of war, right? Black people have $1 trillion spending money. and we spend it in an unfocused way, so our dollar and we are not respected. So amidst all this turbulence in America right now, my solution for how to improve our communities is to start to economically insulate ourselves from oppression by banking black, buying black, being black, and letting everything else take care of itself.
Thousands of people have taken that bit of advice literally. Among them is Sharif Abdul Malik.
You know, the way I feel about it is that America trained black people to be the psychological child.
He is on his way to the bank to withdraw money from a large financial institution. He explains his thinking to the teller at the bank.
I'm leaving Bank of America for a black-owned bank.
Can I see your debit card that you swiped as well?
You gave it back to me? Oh, no.
Within minutes, he withdraws almost all of his savings. The sum amounts to tens of thousands of dollars. They will now head to another bank, one that is owned and run by African Americans. Sharif wants to convince 1 million other black Americans to do the same, and the amounts of money in play are quite substantial. He has created a website that promotes only black businesses. He makes sure each potential seller is indeed African American. It's a non-negotiable condition to be allowed to trade on this online platform. Everything is for sale on WeBuyBlack.com, even a laundry detergent made, packed and sold by a black-owned company. Nothing is left to chance. Even the labels on the boxes are made by a company that was previously deemed sufficiently black.
We've been subordinated by America and white supremacy, and we just want to get away from that, you know. And so I don't think anybody would say that we shouldn't interact with other people and work with other people and do business, but we want to do it in such a way that our dignity is maintained and protected and restored.
That deep divisions persist within the African American community, and his big frustration is that wealthy black Americans shy away from radical movements like his very own.
You got enough money to buy this woman.
Maggie Anderson, her 2 daughters, her husband John. Nice suburban Chicago neighborhood, upscale house, upscale life. And yet these successful business professionals with brand name MBAs felt guilty for years.
We thought we should be doing more. And we thought we should be doing stuff with the money that we made.
Things like what?
Make sure that whatever we do, it was with a black company, through a black family company, buy a product made from a black company, use black professionals, shop in black communities.
And thus, the empowerment experiment, chronicled in the recent book Our Black Year, buying strictly from black-owned businesses for 12 whole months. Most money spent by African American consumers, even in their neighborhood shops, goes to non-black business owners who seldom invest in or hire from the local community, something the Andersons linked directly to the 14% black unemployment rate and other economic inequities, and that they found the media failed ever to report.
Don't just say the black unemployment is 4 times that of whites. Say that black businesses only get 2% of the $1 trillion of black buying power. And then say that black businesses are the greatest private employer of black people. Then you might be able to say, wow, if there were more support of black businesses, if maybe a little more of that $1 trillion got to those businesses, unemployment wouldn't be so high.
Just on a day-to-day basis, black businesses generally don't have the same access to capital, financial capital, even human capital, that other types of businesses do.
Black-owned Covenant Bank, which also reinvests in the community. Board member Kim Jackson.
The percentage of dollars that go out of this community is far beyond most neighboring communities, and we definitely need to see that decreased. We can and have supported ourselves and sustained ourselves. We need to go back to that.
Now, let's briefly talk about the black banks. Once you move your money into the black banks, they gain more national notoriety, and the major banks who routinely discriminate against you lose some. Let's take a look at these clips.
They say successful African dynasties are a myth, and we lost our strength when we were torn from our heritage. That's what they say. We know a new generation of kings and queens in America are claiming their thrones. From scientists to activists, from educators to entertainers, we're changing the world. We see you, new kings and queens. We're one community that continues to beat the odds. And now, we're focused on our money. Rise up and make Black history today. It's time to unleash the king and queen in you. Get the card. Bank Black at oneunited.com. Proud member FDI.
I'm sure you all remember the housing crash from several years ago. These banks were bailed out by the government, and some of their CEOs still received their huge bonuses. These are all white-owned banks, some who built their wealth through slavery, yet today, you are still with these banks, and they still discriminate against Black people. I made a video exposing some of these companies who benefited from slave labor. It was Season 1, Episode 10 of The Wake Up Call. Click the link if you didn't see it yet. Do you think any of those banks were very sorry for what they did? This is your homework assignment. Watch a movie called The Big Short. You will become intimately familiar with what caused the housing crash after you see it, and you will understand the level of greed that really went behind the scenes of making this happen. Now, you start by moving your money to the Black banks, and then you start moving your money into the Black communities. See, we are told so many times to go back to Africa, and I'm sure if any racists are watching this, they agree. Even the secret racists will agree with this. So to all of the racists here today, let's make a deal. We will gladly go back to Africa if you provide back pay to all descendants for the centuries of free slave labor. Then, most importantly, I want you to leave Jamaica, Haiti, Bahamas, Barbados, all African nations in which you can give back all the diamonds, gold, minerals, and artifacts you stole, and all other Black countries around the world. When you are ready to come to the negotiation table to make this happen, we will gladly reciprocate. This way, you never have to look at another Black face again, and you get what you want. A land ruled by the KKK, Aryan Nation, etc., etc., etc. People, this is remedial history. Africa and many other Black nations were robbed of trillions of dollars through mining and artifacts alone by white Europeans. I mean actual history, not the alternative facts taught by your politicians or the fiction taught in traditional schools. Now, let's segue to the nail salons. I have seen so many of our Black women filling up these nail salons. Are you aware of the way Black women have been treated at some of these nail salons?
And yet they continue to go up in that motherfuckers. There ain't that many other places to go. Need more fucking black-owned business. This shit's sad as hell. If I'm gonna get treated by shit, I'd rather get treated by shit by my own. And that's just some real shit. Fuck you gonna constantly. I ain't even fucking racist. But this motherfucker constantly jumping on motherfuckers. Constantly. 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 This is the second time he has assaulted a black woman inside the facility over here at Color Nails. The second time. It was on Facebook Live, went viral last time. Second time. Y'all continue to patron his business. Second time. He is the owner. He is the fucking owner. The second time he has done this.
Let's see who all peeking up and going in this piece here. Oh, they still getting productive business. Oh yeah, business booming. Yeah, they done. What up? What up, Delilah? Good. Be quiet. Quit talking to me. I'm just checking stuff out. Yeah, they kind of deep in there. They definitely kind of deep in there. Business has not changed.
Now, ladies, I have to say this. If you keep going back to these nail salons, even after I show you how they treat a lot of our people, then you're a part of the issue impacting our communities as a whole.
We have to stop patronizing these businesses that come into our community. They don't respect us. I mean, when I looked at that beating, that wasn't $5. That wasn't over $5. That was hatred. That was pure hatred. I saw that.
Yes, it wasn't $5.
And people need to start understanding.
Yes.
Just because you're giving these people your money doesn't mean they like you. It doesn't mean that they are your friend. Because the way they beat them like animals, it shows that they hate you. So it is time for us to start investing in our own businesses. We need to be the distributors of our products that we sell. We need to own the banks where we do the business. It can be done. If you go to any of these other communities, do you go to Chinatown and see a jerk chicken spot? No. Do you see a soul food spot? No. You don't see that. But you see everyone else coming into our communities and extracting money from us. It is time for us to stop being only consumers.
Black women, black those, black those, black women, black women, black those.
A lot of the Asian salons don't like us, but they love our money. Are you even aware of how China feels about us collectively? Maybe this will help.
改变只需
Now, that commercial is a remake of an older Italian ad for clothing dye in which a white man is thrown in and comes out as a muscular black man. Neither creator feels that they were racist, but that's the way that these European countries treat black people. The fact of the matter is, most other races do not acknowledge black people as equals. I have a question for all the white people who do not believe any of these things are happening. Would you agree to have society treat you the same way it has been treating black people for all these years? If you don't understand the question, watch this Jane Elliott clip where she eloquently asks the question and makes it very plain and simple to understand.
If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
There are so many other examples of racism against black people, but this is just a few. Now, I want to spend just a little bit of time on Black Lives Matter. I've watched over many months, and what I am seeing is simply ridiculous. Let me explain what I mean to the other ethnicities who may not understand. Show me any documentation that states Black Lives Matter means other lives don't. The rebuttal is always all lives matter. You are correct. I don't recall anyone saying they don't. Where has it been written or said that all lives do not matter? I'll pause for foolish identification while you scramble for the answer. That rebuttal is pretty much just a redirect to take attention away from the fact that black people have been slaughtered, raped, enslaved, mistreated, discriminated against, and hunted by many hateful white people in this country throughout the country's history. Even politicians have trouble saying it.
The founder of Black Lives Matter, Alicia Garza, says, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean your life isn't important. It means that black lives, which are seen as without value within white supremacy, are important to your liberation. Given the disproportionate impact state violence has on black lives, we understand that when black people in this country get free, the benefits will be wide-reaching and transformative for society as a whole. When we are able to end the hypercriminalization and sexualization of black people and end the poverty, control, and surveillance of black people, every single person in this world has a better shot at getting and staying free. When black people get free, everybody gets free. Black lives matter, period. And so I would yield to any of my colleagues on the Republican side who can unequivocally say, as we calibrate where we are right now, that black lives matter.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. Does the gentleman believe that all lives matter as well? I think black lives matter. I think all lives matter.
Reclaiming my time. Can anyone on the Republican side say unequivocally black lives matter?
Unequivocally all lives matter. Why is that a problem to acknowledge?
Reclaiming my time. I think it's clear that my colleagues on the other side would like to put up a straw man to not have the uncomfortable conversation that we need to have about race. Typically in police shootings, most of the focus is on the conduct of the officer, and we never get to the harder part about the systemic issues we have in our country.
You see, it doesn't happen to them, so they don't care about it. Black people, you need to understand that. It is troubling to know that whenever black people try to bring attention to things that happen to them on a regular basis, you have some white people who get offended. How can you see this pattern and not see the issue? Let us recap. Police were murdering black people, and Colin Kaepernick wanted to silence protests by taking a knee. He explained precisely why he was doing it, which is also a reason that is protected by the Constitution. Instead of acknowledging the purpose of the protest, it was ignored. Then it was turned into a complete lie about disrespecting the flag, and the media and politicians ran with it. And once again, you all fell for the distraction. That is absolute nonsense. He has not disrespected the country or the flag. Pay attention to how quickly the other ethnicities turn their backs on anything that is considered black suffering. Was it disrespectful when Black World War II veterans returned from the war after fighting for the United States and were immediately discriminated against by their own country? The U.S. went right back to the usual black-hating policies, ignoring the fact these black soldiers fought with the American flag displayed on their uniforms, and some chose to die for this country. Now officers are executing black people. Instead of even acknowledging this, the U.S. simply turns it around and blames the black people again, spreading propaganda that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group. At the same time, the KKK or Aryan Nation is never mentioned as one. Pay attention. That is an example of the racism we keep telling you about. Quick history lesson. When mobs of angry white people destroyed Black Wall Street, the police decided that it was the black people who started the rioting. Click this link if you're unfamiliar with Black Wall Street. This is the same thing happening right now. Nothing has changed. Every time we try to bring up any racial violence perpetrated against black people, we are ignored or called thugs. White people want to say all lives matter, or they simply do not care. Look at the difference between white rioting and black rioting. Notice how the media reports each one.
Funny how the media covers white riots versus black protests.
Breaking news.
Seems like when the protesters are black, the media uses some pretty harsh words.
The bad guys. Lawlessness, looting,
Wild animals.
criminals, and thugs.
Thugs. Isn't it the right word?
However, if you're white and you're tearing up the city because of a game, you're just young people.
Young people danced on a flipped-over car.
As UK fans did stupid things.
Some maybe got a little out of control.
Seeing a scene like this just shows how passionate the UK fans are.
It's so tough to lose, and unfortunately the ugly side that we sometimes see in sports.
And why is it that the leadership of the black community is always called into question?
Where is the leadership?
Leadership.
The black leadership.
The absence of leadership.
And it goes back to leadership, but that leadership has to come from the community.
But no one ever questions the leadership of white parents who let their kids burn down and vandalize their college campus.
These are just young college students who think they're playing some kind of a game with police officers.
You know, sometimes they don't even call a white riot a riot.
Party gone awry.
Some fans got a bit too rowdy after the win.
A dispute, a bloody brawl.
There was some type of altercation.
Waco, 170 arrested, 9 people dead.
They're not thugs.
Baltimore, no deaths, but it's a riot, chock full of thugs.
Thugs.
Just thugs.
It really shocks me that you can clearly see these things play out on television, but because it does not impact your privileged life, it doesn't matter. I know some of you will point out that much of the protesting going on now is mostly white people. And you have a point, but look carefully at the crowds. These are young people who are sick and tired of the racist cesspool that you all have left for them. Black Wall Street was 1921. White racist ideology has stuck with some of the subsequent generations. Now, let me address Black Lives Matter directly. Black Lives Matter is an organized movement dedicated to nonviolent civil disobedience in protest against alleged incidents of police brutality against Afro-American people. In 2013, the movement began with the use of the hashtag Black Lives Matter on social media after the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the shooting death of African-American teen Trayvon Martin in February 2012. Remember this case? This was the one in which this grown man was told by police not to follow or engage the suspect, but did it anyway and committed murder. The movement became nationally recognized for street demonstrations following the 2014 deaths of two African Americans, Michael Brown, resulting in protests and unrest in Ferguson, a city near St. Louis, and Eric Garner in New York City. The originators of the hashtag and call to action, Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi, expanded their project into a national network of 30 local chapters between 2014 and 2016. Rudy Giuliani said that Black Lives Matter is inherently racist and called the movement anti-American. According to Giuliani, the Black Lives Matter movement divides people and exacerbates racial tensions. Really quick, can someone leave in the comments any proof or any evidence that you can find that Rudy Giuliani has said similar things about the KKK? Now, earlier this month, two right-wing extremists went to a Black Lives Matter rally to kill a federal officer with the idea that Black Lives Matter would get the blame. They belong to a right-wing extremist group known as the Boogaloo Boys, consisting of mostly young white men. A part of their initiative is to encourage a race war. Why doesn't your news report that? Did you even know about this? Has Giuliani said, and I quote, inherently racist, anti-American, divides people, and exacerbates racial tensions, as he noted about Black Lives Matter? Only someone who is also racist would call Black Lives Matter a racist organization while never condemning the KKK for their outright racism or calling out the Boogaloo Boys for something far more racist and violent than anything Black Lives Matter has done. So basically, the people who benefit from a privileged lifestyle have no idea what racism is and do not know or care about American history. Unless they are black, it never happens to them. Personally, I agree with the 26% of blacks who think that Black Lives Matter distracts attention from the real issues of racial discrimination. As island people would say, fish rots from the head, and Washington, D.C. is rotten. Use your voting power and vote for people who actually give a damn. If you vote for either of these two big fish, you pretty much get what you deserve. Neither of these two will change anything because they know that they can keep taking money from you and lie about where it goes. Then, if they just use certain trigger words, they'll brainwash all of you into believing that you are all each other's problem. I'm amazed it is this easy to fool you with all of the scholars in this country. Some questions do remain about Black Lives Matter, though. There is some controversy stating that the nonprofit does not adequately disclose how they spend their financial contributions. Black Lives Matter indicated that their expenditures include civic engagement, expansion of chapters, arts and culture, organizing, and digital advocacy resources and tools. Executives from Black Lives Matter have also denied that it uses ActBlue to donate to the Democratic National Committee. Since they brought it up, let's talk about ActBlue. ActBlue is a nonprofit technology organization established in June 2004 that enables Democrats, progressive groups, and left-leaning nonprofits to raise money on the internet by providing them with online fundraising software. According to PolitiFact, ActBlue does not pocket donations that are facilitated by its platform. It ferries the money along to the organizations requesting it. So we are to assume they do not take a cut from providing the platform. According to factcheck.org, social media posts falsely claim donations made on the Black Lives Matter website go directly to the Democratic Party because the group uses ActBlue Charities, an online fundraising platform. Donations go to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. The funds first pass through a nonprofit that sponsors the group, so let's take a deeper dive into this particular issue. There are a number of groups that use the phrase Black Lives Matter in their name. There is a Black Lives Matter Foundation, for example, whose president confirmed that it is not related to the organization behind BlackLivesMatter.com, which is at the center of the viral claims.
But our whole goal is to find a way to bring the community and the police together so that we can live in harmony with the police.
Robert Ray Barnes is the founder of the Black Lives Matter Foundation in Santa Clarita, not associated with the Black Lives Matter movement. And therein lies the confusion. Tonight, a BuzzFeed article claims in the wake of racial protests, donors mistakenly raised more than $4 million for the local nonprofit, thinking it was going back to the Black Lives Matter Global Network, the worldwide movement that aims to end police brutality.
I've seen articles that says that I've raised $4.3 million where, I have never had anything close to that.
The BuzzFeed article does say the bulk of that money raised was frozen before it could be dispersed. Nevertheless, Barnes says he has never associated with Black Lives Matter Global Network.
I've never heard one word from anybody from Black Lives Matter.
But he says he has received donations for his foundation, although he would not disclose the amount.
I don't know whether they're doing it to support what I was doing or not. How do I know? I've been around since 2015.
Barnes says he started the Black Lives Matter Foundation in 2015 after he says his wife's ex-husband was allegedly shot and killed by an LAPD officer. BuzzFeed claims many of the recent donations came from Benevity, a site that connects large corporations like Google and Apple to charities. Tonight, a disclaimer was placed on the Black Lives Matter Foundation donation page saying it had no association with BLM. And GoFundMe sent us this statement saying in part, 180 campaigns have recently raised money for the Black Lives Matter Foundation, raising $350,000. GoFundMe placed all funds on hold, and we are working with PayPal and the campaign organizers to ensure all of the money raised is transferred to the Black Lives Matter movement via their fiscal sponsor.
To collect donations, the website uses ActBlue Charities, a 501c3 organization that specifically makes the platform available to charitable organizations. Candace Owens recently posted on her Instagram a video showing that BlackLivesMatter.com uses ActBlue for its donations. It then shows an OpenSecrets.org breakdown of expenditures by ActBlue made in the 2020 cycle. The top recipients are the presidential campaigns of Senator Bernie Sanders, former Vice President Joe Biden, and Senator Elizabeth Warren. But the video misrepresents how ActBlue works. ActBlue isn't itself donating money. It's just the online platform that campaigns and groups use to solicit and collect donations. BlackLivesMatter.com is operated by an umbrella Black Lives Matter organization called the Black Lives Matter Global Network. So I'll stop here, because it's just more of the same nonsense that is dividing us all. There are many organizations latching on to the Black Lives Matter movement. This all becomes another part of the distraction. Most people do not do their own research, so they just say Black Lives Matter is the group funneling money to the Democrats. However, I would not be surprised if the Democrats themselves created a Black Lives Matter entity just for this distraction to work more effectively, which it obviously did. So Black Lives Matter is supposedly left-leaning and allegedly is using a platform that funnels money to the Democrats. This was exposed by a right-leaning black person who routinely caters to white people while disparaging black people. So depending on whether you are right or left-leaning, that will determine what you tend to believe. I believe neither and see through the distractions that are working ever so easy to divide this country. The bottom line is this. The Democrats and Republicans are playing all of you against each other while they benefit from the same group of billionaires who fund both parties and force them to do what they want, not what you want. People, you've been had, you've been took, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and the vast majority of the United States doesn't even see the puppet strings they have attached to you. Scale back the hate and analyze where we could be as a country if the focus were actually on everyone's empowerment, instead of blaming everyone else and not accepting responsibility. This has been your wake-up call.